So we're talking about who could be the busiest today, and these are the 5 clubs we've picked, and this involves Wolves and Chelsea. So Wolves, Dan, yes, we know they want Breuer. Why do they want him, and what else could they do?
They've had problems with players away on international duty in the forward line. They've also let a couple of strikers go this January as well, in Kalajdzic and Fabio Silva. So I think since Gary O'Neill arrived at Wolves, he's made it quite clear that he wanted a centre forward. But other than Breuer, they've not really been linked with anyone else. But they might come on high alert if it turns out that Breuer is available and that he is available on loan at late notice this window. That feels like a really good fit. You said earlier that that would be a good move for the player and a good move for Wolves as well, because for as long as I can remember, it's felt like Wolves have kind of been lacking a centre forward. A lot of their build-up play is very good. They've actually been a really good watch this season, Wolves, but with Wang away, he's been the one who scored most of their goals. It doesn't feel like there's been anyone to put the ball in the back of the net in recent weeks, but I've really enjoyed what Gary O'Neill's done with Wolves this season, and if he can get a centre forward, I'd back them to finish top 10.
Yeah, they're wanting Yuri Alberto, but as we've just said, their talks have not progressed overnight. There is still time today, though. So we're talking about Breuer and Wolves wanting him. Harriet, you were going to tell us about what Chelsea might do today, and he was part of it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's all focused on outgoings at Chelsea, isn't it? And there's a few names that continue to reoccur throughout this window. Breuer is the key one, and I'm not entirely surprised they're looking to move him away. I just don't feel like he's the kind of forward that Pochettino is looking to move forward with. He doesn't particularly suit the style of play, although he has always been adamant that he does have the potential and that he does think he can be a success at Chelsea, but I'm not surprised with so many teams looking for forward options and strikers at the moment that he has been a big name. So we'll wait to see him provide you with updates as we get more information on that. And then the other names, of course, that have been linked with moves away are Gallagher. Contract expires the end of next season. Of course, we've spoken so much about how he'd represent pure profit if he was sold, and that would really help Chelsea's financial situation and maybe help them bolster the squad in other areas as well. But doesn't look like now, with only a few hours left of the window, that will happen. And the same is true as well of Trevor Chalobah. But I think it's a good thing, to be honest, that Chelsea have been a little bit quieter this window, because it feels like with so much change, both in terms of manager, ownership, off the pitch, and a lot of new players coming in over the last couple of windows on the pitch, a little bit of calm, a little bit of consistency, a little bit of continuing to build with the squad that they have, which seems to be moving in the right direction, bar, of course, last night's result, is no bad thing for Chelsea.
Yeah, we're gonna leave Forest, though, because we understand there might be some movement there in the next 10 minutes or so. So we'll go live to Rob Dorset at 9 o'clock and see what he can tell us from Forest. But, Flex, we can talk a bit more about West Ham.
Yeah, we've touched a little bit on Benrahma, Said Benrahma already today, in terms of him deciding whether he wants to make that move or not to Lyon, as the clubs have agreed what the financials look like with that deal. We've also been speaking quite heavily in the last couple of days about Pablo Fornals going to Betis to play under Manuel Pellegrini, who's the very manager who actually brought him to West Ham. And another player that's gone a bit quiet about is Maxwell Cornet. Has problems with injury since coming in from Burnley, didn't quite hit the heights. But I think the fact that it seems to be fairly advanced with Benrahma and Fornals leaving the club shows you the intent of West Ham and what they're thinking about the situation, and they're moving on in a different direction. Yes, Paquetá's been injured and has been playing out on the left when he was available. Kudus as well, coming back from the African Cup of Nations too. So clearly West Ham wanted to move those players on. So I think today, pretty much more outgoings with West Ham. Could they look to bring in another wide forward if they could, late notice, if Benrahma and Pablo Fornals go? Maybe, but I think that's unlikely. I think it's more about those outgoings.
Dan, Villa?
Yeah, I don't think there'll be anything high profile other than Morgan Rogers. Villa have been looking at kind of the youth side of things, getting young players in for the future. I think Villa's main focus this window was on outgoings, and Dendonker's gone out to Napoli on loan, and Callum Chambers and Bertrand Traore were made available for transfer, but no interest in them so far, it looks like. So if Villa get Morgan Rogers in, I think that's probably one more than most Villa fans thought they would get in at the start of the window. So he'll bolster their attacking ranks, and a player for the future, but a player very much for now as well.
Right, not a lot spent this January window so far. Let's look back at some of the most expensive deals in the transfer window in January since its inception. And right up there, we've got Enzo Fernandez and Mykhailo Mudryk there from Chelsea, Virgil van Dijk. Here we go. And Bruno Fernandes is on there too. But in terms of Chelsea ones, Dan, Enzo and Mudryk, what do you reckon so far since they signed?
the jury's still very much out, isn't it? I watched them both closely last night in the game against Liverpool, and for the fee that you've paid, Chelsea need those players to be ready and good now. And I'm not sure they're up to the level that Chelsea need them to be right now. And you could say that about a number of players that Chelsea have bought over the last 12 months. So it's not just those two, but I just think for the fees that Chelsea have spent there, you almost need the finished article for that money, don't you, Flex? So Chelsea will no doubt go on and spend more money on players moving forward next summer, but right now you have to say you can't have those signings down as successes. I liked Enzo Fernandez in the World Cup, but for that fee, it always felt to me that they were buying him solely off what they'd done in the World Cup, and that the player had only really had 6 months at Benfica playing in Europe as well. It felt a huge risk, and he'll no doubt go on to be a very good player. But like I say, Chelsea need these players to be good now.
I don't think the jury is still out on Virgil van Dijk, Harriet.
I mean, no, he's been pretty good, hasn't he, since he signed. The money from Coutinho's sale was reinvested, brought him in, brought Alisson in, of course, and they, for me, were the two final missing pieces of that jigsaw puzzle that helped Liverpool go on to win the Premier League, of course, win the Champions League. Virgil van Dijk, captain this season, as he has clearly stated, still committed to the club, and that's unquestionable. So, yeah, an incredible January signing.